What's going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, host of The How To Show, where we talk about optimizing life, money, and happiness one how to at a time. If you are checking out this episode of the show in podcast form, go ahead and scroll into the show notes and switch over to the YouTube version. We're going to spend a lot of time on Zoom today, and so just want to make sure you're getting the best benefit for the show, because this week we're going to spend some time talking about one of what has been my family's keys to success in what's really been our journey with money, and it all starts with a monthly budget. And so this month I want to break down our playbook, exactly how we do it month to month, using a software or a phone application called EveryDollar. I'm going to walk you exactly through how we go through this process. It's the same sort of content that my wife and I produced a video for once upon a time. Show notes for that up above here. And I'm still going to walk you through the same sorts of steps to setting up a monthly budget, but I'm going to do a breakdown, a step-by-step of how to use EveryDollar, because it's been a really helpful tool in our lives. And so if you think it might be helpful for you, I recommend you check it out. But we'll switch over to Zoom now so that we can go through the nuts and bolts of how that works. All right, to get started, I want to clarify that I am using a computer to access everydollar.com. However, the website and the mobile application are basically the same thing. It's just easier for me to show the content on a larger screen this way. And so for all purposes, the website and the phone app, you can find EveryDollar on the app store of your choice, and you can download the app. As a matter of fact, I recommend you do that because you'll end up using the phone a lot more than you'll use the website, but they work hand in hand back and forth. So the information is the same on your phone as it would be on your computer. And so a little bit of background on EveryDollar itself. It is a product set up by Dave Ramsey's team. And so it helps people budget their monthly expenses. There is a free version of EveryDollar. There's also a paid version of EveryDollar. The paid version allows you to connect it to your banking institution. You can do some dragging and dropping of the transactions that you do with your checking account. Dave Ramsey is very anti-credit cards, so you cannot connect your credit cards to transfer those in automatically. I can tell you that our family's been using the free version for probably 5 years now, and we've done just fine, so no need to purchase anything to get benefit from this service. The steps you need to take to make an account, basically you have to supply an email address, and then you have to confirm that email. And you have to basically agree to their privacy policy in order to do that. I do suspect that they mine your data, so they have an opportunity to look at your spending habits. And so realistically, if you have any spending habits that you don't want the world to know about, basically in your budget, you can just call them something else. You don't have to call it, golf. You can call it studying, something like that. If I have a category for studying, honey, it's a big category. If you're watching at home, my wife, we have a big category for studying this summer. So we'll keep that in mind. But yeah, so basically you're getting this product for free in exchange for whatever they do with your data. I'm not really quite sure, but I can tell you that we've been using it for 5 years. There haven't been any problems with it so far. So the first thing you'll do is you'll create a budget for the month that you're in. So you'll click the Create Budget button, and you'll have a handful of baseline items in your budget. And not all of these are going to apply to every person. So you have to start to plan it out to make it fit your life. And the most important thing here is that your income has to match your expenses, or else it's going to give you basically an error screen at the top. Now you can still work around that error screen, but the whole system sort of works that way. And so to get some value out of this, let's just start plugging in some money. It kind of makes some assumptions already that you get paid every few weeks, or basically you get 2 paychecks a month. And so let's plug in some numbers here. And so we'll plug in $800, and we'll plug it in again. Let's assume that your pay is consistent. And so you've got up here at the top now $1,600 left to budget. So Dave Ramsey's company is a spiritual-based company, and so right underneath your income, they go into to giving, whether that's a church, a charity, that can be your choice. And so, if that's something that you're led to do, you can plug in some dollars there. And so we'll plug in some dollars here, we'll plug in some dollars here, and you just keep going down the list. It has an opportunity to talk about your savings goals here, but it also has the opportunity to plug in debt as well. And I don't know, let's see, yeah, so it has an opportunity for debt down here at the bottom. You can grab these and move them around. So if you want your debt to show up at the top, you can do that. And so let's continue back to the top of this screen here, and we'll go in, because I know that this can be a little daunting. So realistically, the next thing that you want to cover is you want to make sure that your four walls are covered. And what I mean by that is your food, your housing, your electricity, your transportation. And so if you've got a mortgage or a rent payment, let's just start plugging numbers in. And I'm making all these numbers up, but as I do that, it starts to change the amount that you have left to budget. And so let's say your water bill is 25, and your natural gas, maybe you have natural gas, maybe you don't. And again, not all of these are going to apply to every person. Electricity, you start to plug in numbers again. And so 25 for this, and you go through your life and you start to think of, what does your life cost? And I want to take a step back for a moment to realize somebody that's never budgeted for a month before, they may not know what all these items cost. And the reality is that that's okay. Once you get past some of these things that are monthly basics, and you get into what do you pay for gas, or what do you pay for groceries or restaurants, or what do you pay for clothing, or your phone, or your fund money, you may not know what those numbers are. So I want to hereby give you permission to be bad at something new. And I've done videos about this before, that it's okay to have permission to be bad at something new, so that you can grow and you can get better at it. So your budget for February 2021 is not going to be perfect, and no one expects it to. But let's hope that your budget for March 2021 is a little better than February, then April is a little better than March. And over time, you can start to get an idea of what it costs to live your life. And you're going to quickly realize what it costs to live your life relative to the amount of money that you have to live it. And so this is a way to track that line by line. And so you can see that we started out with $1,600 worth of income, and we only have $890 left to spend, because I've been throwing money at all these different categories. And so we'll continue to do this. Let's say we have a gas bill for our transportation. And for maintenance, this is something you can handle this in one of two ways. You can either handle maintenance as it comes, let's say you have an oil change every 3 or 4 months, or you can handle maintenance in such a way that you're throwing a little bit of money aside, so that you can have a pool of money to draw on for maintenance when it becomes necessary. And so let's say that we throw 10 into maintenance like that. So they break down food into groceries and restaurants, and you may be led to break it down even further. Maybe it's groceries, restaurants, and drinks. Maybe it's some combination of the two, or something like that. Or maybe your office does a pitch-in every once in a while, in a time where pitch-ins are allowed again. Things like that. But let's just start plugging in money here. And so we've got 200 for groceries. Maybe we've got 100 for restaurants. And we start to hit these lines. And before we get much further than this, I feel like we've covered the basics. We've covered our shelter. We've covered our transportation. We've covered our food. We're going to skip over personal for a minute, because I feel like it may be more important to change the order of these a little bit. So we've got health. I grabbed one of these on accident, but we'll keep going with this. The next thing I want to cover is debt. If you've got mandatory, or you've got minimum debt payments that you need to make, let's say that you need to hit that student loan, and it's $50 a month. If you've got credit card payments, I really hope you're paying them on time every month, the entire amount, so that you're not accruing interest. But again, this is where you start to plug those numbers in. And so you've got $50 for your car payment. If you've got a car payment, all of these numbers are going to be based on your own situation. And so if you don't know what these numbers are off the top of your head, this is a good fresh start for you to look them up and find out what your student loan payment is per month, find out what your car payment is, and start to get these items plugged in here. And so you can see that very quickly I'm starting to run out of cash to plug into some of these other lines. Health insurance, this may not be plugged in because it may get pulled out of your check before it shows up. But if it didn't, it would be in here. And all of these different lines are the types of things that you may have in your life. And let's say that your health insurance does get pulled out before you get your check. This is an item where you can click on the button, you can delete it, and so it starts to go away. And the same goes for here. If you don't have any interest in identity thefts, you can delete that. If you don't have any credit card debt, you can delete these things. And so you can start to formulate exactly what your scenario is. And so if we go back up here to lifestyle, I talked about a minute ago, education. I think I called it studying. Studying is what we're going to be doing a lot of this year. So we're going to be studying, and we're going to spend $200 this month studying, because studying is really good. I love to get 18 holes of studying in as often as I can. So again, we're continuing to whittle away at what we have to spend, such that we start to allocate it to our different categories. And the kicker to this is I'm going to purposefully go above and beyond what we have to spend. And at that point, it's going to show you that you're over budget, which is a bad thing in concept, but don't be alarmed if it is happening to you in month one. Basically, this is your reality check of sorts, that you're spending more money that you're bringing in. And so you've got a couple of different options there. You can either start to eliminate some of the things that you're spending money on or allocating money on, or there's no other way to say this, then you have to find some way to get the amount that you're bringing in to cover the expenses down below. So let's start to talk about, once you've set up all of your budget, you've got all your lines in there, and you've got everything squared away. You've found a way to take that clothing at 100 and drop it back down to 90, so that it's an every dollar budget. Every dollar has a responsibility tied to it. And so what do you do with this? Practically, you could leave it alone, but that's not really what the app is made for. The idea is that you can track what you spend over time, and it'll give you a guide through the month as to how much money you have left. And so that's where this little transaction button happens. And the app, it still has the same sort of idea. And so you'll click this button and you'll add a new transaction. And let's say you spent $55 at the grocery store, and we'll just call it Target for the fun of it. And we'll choose a budget item. And let's say that was groceries. So you would click on groceries here. But let's say that you also, maybe you bought a t-shirt or something at Target. So you can add a split, and you can grab clothing as well. And so maybe you spent $40 on groceries, you spent $15 on a t-shirt, and you track that expense. And it will try to sell you on the Pro version, which you do not have to buy. This does not happen in the app version. This is just a push from the website version. But you'll start to see that your planned number for clothing and your remaining number for clothing are no longer the same. And if you toggle this over, you can change it from remaining to spent, and it'll show you the inverse of what you just had a second ago. So this is a way for you to take what you have and set up a monthly budget so that you do not have to memorize all this in your head. This lives on your phone, and as you go throughout your month spending things that you would spend money on anyways, you can start to track what you're spending. And this becomes useful because if you keep doing this for a decent number of months, you can start to get some data points around what your life costs. And so not that long ago, I did some videos on how to save for retirement, how to figure out what your retirement number is, and all of these things play together, because how to figure out how much you need for retirement is based on how much your life costs. How much your life costs is based on your budget. So tie all of these things together. They're all important. They're all interconnected, because this is your life. This isn't made up. This is your $600 mortgage. It's not anybody else's. And nobody else is going to take responsibility for it except for you. So if you want to start to track your money and give your money direction and guidance so that you don't get to the end of the month and wonder where it all went, this is one way to do it. This is the way my family does it. We set up our every dollar every month. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to do it anymore, because we've gotten to a pretty regular point in our life where our monthly expenses are pretty predictable. And every month we still have the conversation, though. This month maybe the dog needs to go to the vet, or maybe we've got a dentist appointment. Different things that change every month happen, and that's okay too. You just need to have the conversation. And if it's just you and you're living alone, you have the conversation with yourself. And there's nothing wrong about that at all. I talk to myself all the time. My wife can vouch for that. So this is an introduction to EveryDollar. Again, it looks pretty much exactly the same on the phone app. I recommend you give it a try. And if EveryDollar is not for you, there are other budgeting apps on your app store. I recommend you check one of them out so that you can track your spending and just get a better idea of what your financial life looks like and if there's an opportunity to make it better. That's going to bring this episode of the show to a close. Hopefully you got some actionable tips out of that. And if you think that this video is useful or helpful, please share it with somebody and let them know about it. Tracking your money and being on a monthly budget really is one of the keys to winning with money. So I hope you check it out. I hope you try it. And again, share this with somebody you care about. And while you're at it, hit the like button so that the YouTube algorithm knows that this is a video worth watching and a video worth YouTube sharing with other people. Along those lines, if you've got any feedback for this episode of the show or any topics that you want me to cover in the future, leave me a comment down below. I interact with all of those and I have a good time doing it. It's a good way to build camaraderie in the comments. So please do that. If you want to be up to date on the latest and greatest episodes of the show, hit the subscribe button on either YouTube or the podcast player of your choice so that you can be the first to know about new content when it comes out each and every Wednesday. Until then, this is Anthony Drew Gary, host of The How To Show, signing off.